Chapter 3. You're looking at the loves of my life is what you're looking at. August 2001 between January 2002. If anything, the shooting proved that my job, and therefore my life, was not glamorous in any way. Pathetically, I'd imagine that undercover life would be like Miami Vice, full of cigarettes, boats, fast cars, expensive clothes, and perfect tens and bikinis sitting in my lap while I negotiated with drug kingpins. Instead, I confronted toothless strippers and disgruntled Vietnam vets and did deals with jonesing tweakers in trailer parks while getting shot by a broke-dick ex-con who lived with his mom. Still, I love the job. After the shooting, I went back to the academy to complete my training. Upon graduation, they sent me to Chicago, where I learned my new job with another gang agent, Chris Bayless, a dynamic and intelligent undercover operative who remains one of my best friends. And what a job! In the years between the shooting and the summer of 2001, I'd done and seen things that citizens simply don't do or see. I'd been in another shootout. I had an inhuman number of guns shoved in my face. I'd bought and sold tons of drugs, and I'd made hundreds of solid collars. I'd worked African-American gangbangers and Italian mobsters with Chris, the Aryan Brotherhood with Special Agent Luis Quinones, and bikers from Georgia to Colorado with a bunch of different partners, including one of my ATF mentors, Vincent Salafu. By 2001, I thought I'd seen it all. Yet, after nearly 15 years on the job, I still had something to prove. I still had more to see. In the summer of that year, a young, ambitious case agent named Greg Sugar Bear Cowan called about running some game up in Bullhead City, Arizona. Sugar Bear said that Bullhead was ripe for the picking, and that getting evidence up there would be like shooting fish in a barrel. He said we could take a lot of guns off the street. I agreed to have a look. One morning I got up, ate breakfast, rustled the hair on my son, Jack, kissed my daughter, Dale, grabbed a plate full of cookies that my wife, Gwen, had baked, and hit the road. Bullhead City is near the southern tip of Nevada, 10 hours from where I lived in Tucson. It's a broken down town full of semi-employed mechanics who shacked up with women who are or were dancers. It's a meth capital teeming with high school dropouts, and it's all set down in a brown and tan valley that looks more like Mars than Earth. Across the brown Colorado River is Laughlin, Nevada, Bullhead's dusty twin sister, with her twinkling strip and brand name outfits, Flamingo, Golden Nuggets, Harris. I met Sugar Bear at the Black Bear Diner on Route 95. We sat in the window booth in the refrigerated air while the desert sweltered outside at 115 degrees. He slurped coffee and nibbled at dried toast while I crammed a bacon double cheeseburger into my mouth. He talked about a local gun shop called Mojave Firearms. The owner, Robert Abram, dealt with a brand of regulars who were all gun strokes. Most of the deals were off the books, and there were significant numbers of modified machine guns going in and out of the shop. A guy named Scott Barville, a former Marine sniper and ace bike mechanic, did the machine gun mods in his garage. We drove around town after lunch. I watched the dusty roads and subdivisions skim by from the comfort of our car's air conditioning. Sugar Bear said I'd go undercover as a biker. I said fine, in spite of the heat and the fact that I wasn't a biker expert. He said he knew I'd be fine, that I looked the part and that bikers were respected in Bullhead. I said I imagined they were. He said that all the guys, especially Abram and Varville, were Hell's Angels groupies. He said the angels were around, but not everywhere. I didn't think much of it either way. I agreed to come on board. We got started in late August. Cowan continued to run an informant while I staged up in Tucson. I got my bike tuned and checked out at an ATF car, a black Mercury Cougar. I took target practice at the field office. I helped Gwen get the kids off to another year at school, making trips to the mall. Jack, good athlete, got cleats and gym socks and a book bag. With saved allowance, he bought a box of Fleer football cards. He was on the hunt for Drew Brees rookies. He got 3 from that batch. With saved allowance, he bought a box of Fleer football cards. He was on the hunt for Drew Brees rookies. He got 3 from that batch. I bought Dale a used guitar with the promise that if she applied herself, I would get her a brand new one down the road. In the early morning of September 11th, I was at home getting ready to leave when Chris Bayless called. He said, "Turn on the TV." The ride to Bullhead was off. Gwen and the kids and I sat mesmerized in front of the TV like everyone else. Jack, who was 7 at the time, is a fun-loving kid who's always smiling. Dale, then 11, is a little moodier, endearing, righteous, and occasionally indignant. Gwen and I sensed fear and confusion in them. We sensed fear and confusion in each other. We watched the gray explosions over and over and over. I told my kids, be brave. That's what this is, a chance for you to be brave. Set a good example for other kids who might be scared. And be proud that you're an American because we're about to kick some ass. I spoke with Sugar Bear later that day. We were pretty sure the Bullhead case would be deep sixed or at least put on hold. But to our relief, this didn't happen. I looked forward to work. I didn't want to sit around and think about how America had just been attacked. By the end of the following week, I was holed up in Bullhead at Gretchen's Inn, a contemptible Riverside hideaway off Route 95. From the outside, it looks harmless, but from the inside, it was something else. A flea-bag meth flophouse, busted locks on the doors and windows that wouldn't close, people screwing all day and night. I slept with my arms folded over my chest and one of my beloved Glock 19s in my hand. On the night of October 22nd, 2001, as I listened to methed out tweakers bang away above and below my room, I lay down for the last time as 100% J. Dobbins. The next day our case, codenamed Operation Riverside, would go into full swing. Sugar Bear's informant, Chuck, would take me to Mojave Firearms for some introductions. Chuck would say, "This is Jay Davis, good guy to know, good guy to be known by." Here's what I said. "What's up? That's a nice place you got here. Looks like you know your business." "Yeah, Jay's my name, but everyone calls me Burr. Here's my card, Imperial Financial. I do collection work. Yeah, that kind. You know, a John Doe fucks up at the Bellagio and goes back to Omaha with a line of unpaid credit. They can't send a security detail to beat the gold out of him on the front of his lawn. Bad publicity. That's where I come in. Yeah, I guess it's pretty cool if I stop to think about it, which I don't. Pays the bills, keeps the lawn green, and doesn't take too much of my time. Yeah, I ride. You see a patch on my back? Well, then I'm not a 1%er, so quit asking. Yep, that's my bike. The one with the baseball bat strapped to the sissy bars. What's it for? I'm a huge D-backs fan. Luis Gonzalez is my boy. Nah, man, what do you think? That's right, dude, the collections. Baseball bat can come in handy in my line. But, listen, I got another business. Maybe you can help me out. I need guns. Small ones, big ones, fast ones, slow ones. No papers. Hit and run deals I can throw in the river. You know what I mean? I appreciate your discretion, dude. You're a class businessman. Yeah, so what if I already got a couple pieces? My Glocks are my babies, and they're for me and me alone. Right now, I'm looking for 45s. Also, know anyone who can work on my bike? You do? Thanks, dude. I owe you one. Anytime you want to go down to the Inferno for beers, you let me know. Next night out is on the Birdman." Bob Abram, the owner of the gun shop, filled in the blanks. He was 47, short, portly, strong, and knowledgeable about every gun under the sun. The intro went well. Abram ate every scrap and crumb. The next day, he sold me 2 45s, no papers, no forms, all cash. It was too easy. Through the years, I was often amused by how quickly suspects decided to trust me. Criminality is a brutal, sometimes comical game of one-upmanship. Bad guys are constantly trying to prove to one another and themselves that they're badder and harder than the next guy. This is one reason Abram wanted to know if I was a 1%er. This phrase originated when rogue bikers ran roughshod over a 1947 motorcycle rally in Hollister, California. These troublemakers were described as the 1% of the American motorcycle riding public that is criminal by the American Motorcyclists Association. The name stuck and was proudly worn by those riders who considered themselves to be outlaws. Since law-abiding bike enthusiasts, 99%ers, had ostracized these outlaw riders and since they were usually societal outcasts to begin with, they formed clubs. These riders were easily identified by their motorcycle vest, leather or denim jackets, usually with the sleeves cut off, and therefore known as cuts, which were adorned with the three-piece patch of an outlaw biker. This patch was really three separate patches found on the back of the vest. It consisted of a large center patch depicting the club's logo, the infamous Laughing Wing Skull, or Death Head in the case of the Hells Angels, a curved, rocker-shaped top rocker containing the club's name, and a bottom rocker containing the vest wearer's charter affiliation, usually the name of a city, state, or in the case of international clubs, country. The four major American outlaw clubs are the Pagans in the East, the Outlaws in the Midwest, the Bandidos in Texas, and the Hells Angels, who are found throughout the country in at least 20 states. The other three clubs may beg to differ, but the Hells Angels are the premier outlaw club in the United States and the world. Abraham wanted to know if I was a one percenter, because if I was, I would have had instant credibility. It didn't matter that I wasn't a one percenter though, because for small-time guys like Abram, credibility was cheap. After a couple more sales, Abram introed me to Scott Varvel, John Core, and Sean McManama, who introed me to Tim Holt, a machinist who ended up making me a bunch of silencers. Each of these men had four things in common. They loved guns, they were white, they were not rich, and they all told me how they knew Smitty, the local's Hells Angels brass. Smitty belonged to the Arizona Nomad chapter of the Hells Angels. Most large one-percenter clubs have Nomad charters. There are divisions within the club that belong to a state but don't have a fixed location. At the time, the Arizona Hells Angels had fixed charters in Tucson, Mesa, Phoenix, Cave Creek, and Skull Valley, while their Nomad charter kept a small clubhouse in Flagstaff. They had the state covered. I'd seen Smitty around. He looked like a hippie granddad, a swirling black and white beard, big old man eyeglasses, a bald crown that topped a curtain of long, stiff hair. When he smiled, which I'd learned was often for a Hells Angel, he looked like a lovable goofball. Varvel loved Smitty the most. Varvel maintained that the Angels wanted to recruit him, but that they couldn't because of his job, which he refused to give up. He was a school nurse, which was simply not badass enough. Varvel was the most interesting of the Mojave Firearms bunch. I first got with him on November 7th, 3 short weeks after having met Abram, when along with Abram and the informant, Chuck, we paid Varvel a visit. I wanted to drop off my 63 Panhead to see if Varvel could fix it. He said he could. We admired his Harley Road King for a while, and as Varvel gloated over it, Chuck said, "Well, we've seen your scooter. Now where's the guns?" Varvel asked Abram if he trusted us, and Abram said, "They know about my toys, so if we're going down, I guess we're all going down together. Yeah, I trust him. I trust him with my life." Varvel proceeded to let us into his gun vault, a 15 by 20 foot room off of the cluttered garage. Every wall of the room was lined with guns of every kind from damn near every decade of the 20th century and probably 24 countries. Varvel handed me an AR-15 with a 3-position switch and said, "Yup, fully auto. Did the work myself." He stuck a thumb in the direction of a hokey machine mill. "Man, I can trick out these ARs all day." Good for him. After a while, we left. Weeks passed and we worked. The guys were flush. I did a roost deal with John Core. I told him I was selling guns to some Mexican gangsters at a body shop, and I asked him to come along as backup. Before we went to the shop, we stopped at a 7-Eleven for gas and big gulps. After the Cougar filled up, I dumped my soda on the pavement and filled the big gulp with a cup of gasoline. I said, "Look, these are bad motherfuckers. We're going to go in there and take care of business. But if shit goes bad, I'm going to throw this on the main dude and flick my cigarette at him. Send him up in flames, got it? Then we run like hell." The guys we were dealing with were all cops, and this was never going to happen. But Core thought it was real as daylight. He was so nervous during the deal that he ashed his cigarettes into the tops of his shoes so as to not offend the buyers by littering on their floor. After that, I set up some deals with Core and Sean McManama, and with the help of McManama, Tim Holt custom manufactured the silencers. McManama also asked me to kill his ex-wife's husband and gave me the gun to do it. This murder for hire scenario was one I was familiar with. My MO in these situations was to slow play the request, demanding that if I were to undertake such a serious crime, it had to be on my own terms. Often, in the interim, suspects would come to their senses and I'd be called off. Murders for hire were usually beneficial. I could gain credibility for being willing to kill for money, and the prosecutors would have a good conspiracy charge to level against a suspect when his or her day in court came. I accepted McManama's request according to my guidelines, and sure enough, a few weeks down the line, he called me off, while I cultivated a reputation of being a hitman. I stayed on Varville, but he only danced around deals. I went to pick up my bike and found him fiddling at his workbench, wearing baby blue nurse's scrubs. When he saw me, he got up and took a Sig Sauer pistol from the table, stuffing it into his waistband, the grip hanging over the lip of his drawstring pants. We shook hands and he walked me over to my bike. He straddled it, started it up, and rolled the throttle in neutral. He yelled over the engine, "That Spectre pistol Cord selling you? How much you want?" I yelled back, $1,000. "Mommy, that's too much for a pistol, bird." "It was me. I charge you $300. That's cool of you, dude, but he ain't budging. All the same to me, just have to work extra hard." He turned off the engine, and in the sudden silence, I was still yelling, "On the next collection." He shrugged. He said, "Hey, it's your money." I stuck my chin at the bike. "Sounds good." Like a motherfucker. He cut the engine and swung his leg over the seat in a fluid motion, the pistol still in his waist. It defied gravity, with so little baggy cotton medical nonsense holding it in place. "Hey, come with me. I want to show you something." He led me to the gun room. It was the same as before, gun after gun after gun. Varvel opened a large drawer and started rummaging through it, pulling out rags and rifle butts and holsters and bulletproof vests, throwing everything in a heap. He spoke in a stream of words. He sounded like he was tweaking on meth. "Abram and those guys want me to trick out everything they got. Fuck that. I don't need more automatic shit sitting around to incriminate my ass. These guys don't understand the risk I take doing all their fucking mods. Shit, I already got a PVC garden out back that would make Ted Nugent cream his pants." I assume this referred to his backyard, where he buried his excess firearms in sealed PVC piping. He stopped going through the drawers and put his hands on his hips. "There you are." Varvel removed an MP40 from the drawer. "This is a German Schmeiser. The Nazis used it during the invasion of Poland. It's an open bolt, blowback, slow cycle machine gun. And this," he pulled out another gun. "It's British. Sten gun. Come by these once in a while? Cool. Can you give me any of these?" And this," he pulled out another gun, "is British. Sten gun. Come by these once in a while. Cool. Can you get me any of those?" "Sure. I'll keep my ear to the ground. This is an STG-44 Russian precursor to the AK-47. You can switch this shit on the fly. Better have your clips handy. And this is a snowplow. A flat top AR-15, but the sighting mechanism is for clearing brush." He lined the machine guns along the blank wall next to the door jamb. He handed me the stand. I placed it alongside the MP40 and we stepped back. Varvel looked down on his collection, his arms folded. He gave his head a slow, prideful, almost disbelieving shake. He took a deep breath through his nose, filling his lungs, and made a little stab with a short exhale from the back of his throat. He was in awe. "Bird, you're looking at the loves of my life is what you're looking at." We ran and ran and ran, and I cracked the whip. Sugar Bear had trouble keeping up. Within 12 weeks, I'd purchased a grab bag of guns, a Czechoslovakian 32 caliber semi-auto pistol, a ROM 22 caliber revolver, an FIE model A27 25 caliber pistol, an Intratec Tech 22 9mm pistol with compatible silencer, a Sight Spectre HC 9mm semi-automatic pistol, a Ruger 22 caliber model 1022 rifle with the sawed-off 13-inch barrel, and a Colt AR-15 223 caliber machine gun. I bought 40 odd silencers from Hope, with McNamara acting as a middleman. The silencers, the machine gun, the sawed-off, and the Tech 22 with the silencer were all banned weapons. I was never asked to fill out any paperwork, as I'd always implied to them that I was using them for kills or that I was running them south to Mexico to sell at a markup. The guys didn't ask questions. They made quick tabulations with the criminal calculus and nodded to me like I was their dear old brother. I danced around 4 murder solicitations, delaying or bluffing, never actually killing anyone for money. They all kept me very busy. During that fall and winter, my son, Jack, kept me busy too. I made sure to drive down to Tucson twice a week to coach a rabid gang of 7 and 8-year-olds in the T-ball league. During the whole Riverside case, I never missed a single game, even if I had to drive through the night, showing up as the boys took the field. I did this because I felt guilty for not being there, but I also did it because it was a pleasure. For a couple of hours a week, I was around innocents. I could encourage kids to succeed and hug them after they did something fun. It was the highlight of my week. One Saturday in mid-January, Jack reminded me that we didn't have a T-ball game on Tuesday. I asked, why not? I don't know. Martin Luther King Day is on Monday. For some reason, they canceled the game on Tuesday. Right. Then next Saturday it is. On Sunday, I went back to Bullhead with a trunk full of food made by Gwen. As I left the house, my family stood on the front yard, waving. I thought, Jay, you're a lucky man. That night I hung out at the Inferno lounge with Abraham and Varvo. The Inferno was the place to be seen and be seen in Bullhead City. It was a dark, bland bar in an unremarkable 2-story concrete building with bikini-clad bartenders, keeping the customers coming back. Regular citizens and small-time crooks were the main clientele, but it also attracted a fair number of outlaw bikers. Smitty came through 2 or 3 times a week. Varvo and I sat at the bar, talking about the Florence prison run. Everyone knew about the Florence run. All the Arizona clubs saddled up and rode out to the Florence prison to pay tribute to their incarcerated brothers. I said I'd never been, and Varvo said it was a sight to behold. I told him I thought I'd go, even if I had to go alone. It sounded too damn cool. Abraham emerged from the john, walked over to us, and climbed onto a stool. He wrapped his hands around his beard and stared at the TV, which showed a Colin Powell interview intercut with images of the Taliban in Afghanistan. Abraham said longingly, man, talk about a fucking market. Neither Varville nor I said anything. We weren't sure what he meant. Abraham said, man, if I could, I'd build a fucking bridge from Afghanistan to the front door of my store. Varville was shocked. Bob, what are you talking about? I'd sell those Arab boys some guns is what I'm fucking talking about. He pointed the glistening top of his beer bottle at a group of bearded Taliban. Varville nearly choked. So they could kill Americans with them? Hell yeah, I don't give a shit. Money is money. And if a motherfucker needs a gun, I want to be his guy. I said, dude, you're fucked up. Varville, the ex-Marine, looked at Abraham like he was a leper and went back to drinking. Abraham changed the subject. Say, Burr, you doing anything tomorrow? Not that I know of. I'm going shooting out in the desert. Want to come? What's the occasion? He took a long swig of beer and said, it's Ninja Monday. I know those lazy feds always take their holidays to drink beer and sit around. Therefore, I know I won't get caught with any of my really fun toys out in the bush. He tapped his temple, indicating his brains, which, had it been acceptable, I would have enjoyed bashing. I said, I didn't think I'd make it, finished my drink and left. I didn't take Martin Luther King Day off. I did paperwork, concentrating on Abraham, and visited Holt at the machine shop to pick up another batch of silencers. The whole time I thought, Abraham, you fat fuck, here is one Fed who's working the long weekend, and one day you were going to jail for just a little bit longer because I decided to work on Ninja Monday 2002.